Jason and Britt were never meant to find comfort in simplicity. Every moment that nudges them closer to each other comes wrapped in consequence, in ghosts of unfinished wars, in threats that linger just out of frame. So when the middle of the week brings them once again into the same orbit, it does not feel like coincidence. It feels like convergence. Both are carrying new scars disguised as old habits. Jason burying himself in quiet resolve, Britt wearing bravado-like armor over a heart that has never fully healed. They collide not in some grand romantic setup, but in the tension between survival and surrender, standing at the crossroads of secrets that refuse to stay buried and enemies that refuse to stay gone. There is heat between them, yes, but it is built on danger, forged in the memory of gunfire, narrow escapes, and the knowledge that any step toward each other might also be a step toward ruin. That is the energy that hums beneath the surface as they are drawn closer, almost against their better judgment, toward something that looks dangerously like tenderness. Beneath that dangerous calm, Britt is unraveling in ways she does not want anyone to see. The panic that gripped her earlier in the week was not a random burst of anxiety. It was the symptom of a deeper fracture, one tied to the chilling shadow of Sidwell, to whispered warnings, to the subtle realization that her life is no longer fully her own. She tried to regain control the only way she knows how, by lashing out, by making threats, by convincing herself that if she sounds fearless enough, she might become immune to the fear tightening around her. But the moment of panic left its mark, and in the quiet spaces between words, Jason can see it. He knows what it looks like when someone is reaching the edge and pretending they are standing on solid ground. That awareness creates a fragile intimacy between them, an emotional recognition that neither of them has asked for but both feel. When Jason reaches for Britt, metaphorically, emotionally, almost physically, it is not just about attraction. It is about instinct. He moves to steady what he senses is breaking, not realizing that this instinctive need to protect her will place a target on both of them. Their almost moment does not happen in a vacuum. It unfolds against a backdrop of rumors, alliances, and movements in the shadows, where Sidwell has begun to reassert himself as a looming, calculating presence. Britt's earlier threat was reckless, born more from cornered fear than logical strategy. And Sidwell is not the kind of man who tolerates being backed into a corner by anyone, least of all by someone he considers expendable. While Britt tries to frame her boldness as control, Sidwell sees it as provocation. He is patient enough not to strike impulsively, but cruel enough to turn her misstep into an opportunity. That calculated quiet before his retaliation is what bleeds tension into every scene that follows. Every phone that rings, every door that opens, every interrupted breath becomes a possible entry point for his revenge. As the week pushes them closer, Jason and Britt edge toward a rare vulnerability. It is in the subtle glances, the hesitations that betray how much they still remember, the first time they became allies, the first time they became something more than that, the countless times danger dragged them together even when fate tore them apart. They know their connection is built inside a war zone, where affection comes second to survival, but that does not erase what lingers. So when they finally find themselves alone, with walls lowered just enough, the moment feels earned. The air shifts, the noise of the outside world blurs, and for a brief, electric heartbeat, it looks as if they might finally allow themselves to choose each other without apology. But this world does not allow clean choices. The interruption, when it comes, is not just an annoying disruption of romance. It is a collision with consequence. Whether the figure stepping between them is Sidwell himself or someone acting under his shadow, the meaning is the same. Britt is not free, Jason is not safe, and their connection is not a private sanctuary, it is leverage. The sudden intrusion slices through whatever fragile calm they were building, reminding both that their lives are tethered to something darker, more organized, and far more relentless than either of them has fully acknowledged. In that instant, the tone shifts from longing to alarm, from almost intimacy to strategic awareness. Jason reads situations for a living, he does not miss the message. Britt, too, understands. Her threat has been answered, not with immediate violence, but with control. The interruption itself is a warning, they are being watched, timed, studied. Sidwell, or those who serve him, are not only aware of her desperation, they are willing to exploit it. If he is the one behind the disruption, his move is brilliant in its cruelty. He does not need to touch Britt to hurt her. All he has to do is disrupt what little safety she feels near Jason. By inserting himself, directly or indirectly, into their private moment, he taints it. He makes Britt question whether being near Jason makes him a shield or a liability. He makes Jason question whether protecting Britt means stepping closer, or stepping away before she becomes the detonator that blows his world apart. And that is where the real psychological warfare begins. From that point on, every interaction between Jason and Britt becomes layered with new stakes. Their chemistry is no longer just about unresolved feelings, it is about pressure. Is Jason willing to risk becoming Sidwell's next target just because he cannot stay emotionally detached from Britt? Is Britt willing to draw Jason deeper into a mess she knows she helped trigger? The interruption forces both to confront truths they have been avoiding. Britt is in far more danger than she let on, and Jason's presence in her orbit makes this battle anything but one-sided. The illusion that this was just about a fleeting romantic reconnection is shattered. This is strategy. This is positioning. This is a test of how far Jason will go for her, and how far Sidwell is prepared to reach into their lives. As the dust of that broken moment settles, the story widens. The interruption marks a pivot point, not an isolated incident. Sidwell is not just a name thrown in to cause trouble, he is the embodiment of a threat that does not rush, a predator that circles until the prey is exhausted. Britt's earlier attempt to intimidate him now reads like a match struck in a warehouse full of fuel. The consequences are no longer confined to her. They bleed outward, to Jason, to anyone who stands between Sidwell and his objectives. It becomes clear that if Britt thought her words could scare him off, she misunderstood her opponent. What she did instead was make herself unforgettable to a man who specializes in turning defiance into destruction. And Jason, standing beside her in that crucial instant, has effectively been drawn onto the board whether he wants to be or not. Yet buried within all this danger is what makes their story compelling: the collision of fear and desire, of conscience and survival. Jason does not abandon people in crisis, even when walking away might be the safer choice. Britt, for all her flaws and impulsive decisions, is fighting for control over a life that keeps slipping through her fingers. Their interrupted moment reveals something uncomfortable and inescapable. They are better when they face the storm together, but standing together also paints the brightest possible target. That contradiction is what will drive everything that comes next, pushing them into choices that blur the line between protection and obsession. By the time the week closes in around them, what began as a nearly stolen romantic interlude has morphed into a catalyst. The interruption is not a footnote, it is a declaration that Jason and Britt are now positioned at the center of a larger, more intricate danger. Sidwell's presence hangs like a storm cloud, promising that the next move will cut deeper. The stakes have shifted from emotional uncertainty to mortal risk. For Jason and Britt, the question is no longer whether they can find their way back to each other. It is whether they can survive what is coming now that their enemies know exactly where to strike.